The strange thing about the Necron War is not only how they kill, but what remains after they have gone. Where orcs leave wreckage and fire, where Tyranids leave bone and ruin, and where chaos leaves madness, the Necrons leave silence. Not the silence of death, nor the silence of ruins echoing with carrion, but a silence more profound, as though the world itself has been rewritten into stillness. The first Imperial ships to return to fallen worlds discover landscapes no longer their own. On Calith, once a spire world of teeming millions, the streets are gone. Towers have been reshaped into sharp geometric monoliths, black as obsidian, their faces inscribed with symbols that burn softly in the dark. The air is unnaturally clear, stripped of smoke and pollution, but sterile without scent. Rivers flow with precise banks, unnaturally straight, as if carved by hands that tolerated no imperfection. The planet is not ruined. It is transformed. To human eyes, this is worse than devastation. To see one's homeworld still standing but alien is to feel erased while still alive. Explorators and survivors whisper of something stranger still. When they approach these altered sites, their machines fail. Vox signals vanish into static. Auspex readings distort, returning impossible values. Machine spirits grow restless, shrieking in binary hymns of pain. Even the air tastes metallic, the ozone of Gauss fire lingering long after battle is over. To mortals, it feels as though the planet itself has chosen new masters and refuses to acknowledge its former inhabitants. But it is not only worlds that fall silent. The void itself begins to change. Merchant fleets chart new routes through sectors once thick with trade and traffic, only to find them empty. Beacons burn out without warning, their light replaced by obsidian obelisks that float in orbit, humming with energy that bends auspex and twists navigation. Rogue traders who dare approach return hollow-eyed, muttering of corridors in the void, as though reality itself bent around the alien machines. Others do not return at all. The Imperium calls them tomb fleets, ships of alien design that do not launch from forges or docks, but rise from beneath planetary crusts as though the stars themselves were merely another layer of burial. They emerge without warning, their hulls carved with glyphs that pulse like veins, their weapons able to flay voidcraft in moments. Entire Imperial flotillas are erased before they can fire, reduced to drifting husks. Those who survive speak of the silence more than the fire. No vox chatter from the enemy, no signals, no cries. Only the emerald beams and the hum of inevitability. The Mechanicus, for all its pride, finds itself powerless. Data vaults on Forge worlds are gutted by Necron fire, entire archives of human knowledge reduced to nothing in seconds. Explorator fleets attempting to recover artifacts are unmade before they can even send warnings. What stings most is the theft of knowledge. Magi confess in whispers that they have seen Necron beams target not soldiers or tanks, but libraries, cogitator cores, data cathedrals. The enemy harvests not only lives but memory. For the Mechanicus, it is a sin beyond comprehension, an erasure of history itself. Astropaths sense something deeper still. They describe the warp recoiling from the Necrons, twisting into hollows where no visions can reach. Astropathic choirs trying to send messages from besieged worlds find their voices smothered, their minds burned out by a silence so total it feels like drowning. To the Imperium, the warp has always been dangerous, unstable, violent, but never quiet. That quiet spreads, swallowing whole subsectors until astropathic charts are riddled with gaps, blank regions where nothing can be heard. Pilgrims call it a mercy, scholars call it extinction. For astropaths it is terror, for silence means isolation, and in the void, isolation is death. Even the common citizen feels it. Refugees fleeing from the front lines tell not only of slaughter, but of a change in the very air. Cities that once pulsed with life are muted. No birds cry, no vermin scurry, no wind howls. Those who linger too long near Necron-altered sites begin to falter in spirit. Their voices grow softer, their steps slower, their eyes glassy. Priests call it despair, but the people whisper another word for it: forgetting. As if the land itself erases memory, as if the souls of the living begin to fade alongside the worlds they once claimed. In this, the Imperium confronts a new terror. The Necrons do not merely destroy, they overwrite. They impose their silence on every level of existence, until there is no room left for humanity. And unlike the howling madness of chaos or the ravenous hunger of tyrannids, this silence cannot be fought with fire or prayer. It simply spreads. One world, one star, one thought at a time for the Imperium. Survival depends on voices carried across the void. Astropaths bleed themselves dry to send fragments of thought between stars. And navigators hold the Astronomicon in their minds to guide ships through the madness of the warp. When those voices fail, when that guiding flame flickers, the Imperium does not just stumble, it falls blind. And in the wake of the Necrons' advance, that blindness spreads like a plague. The first signs are small. A fleet bound for Dravonis emerges from the warp days late, its navigator pale and shaking, his third eye weeping blood. He claims there was no beacon, no Astronomicon, only walls of silence pressing in from all sides. The fleet survives only because the navigator trusted instinct, a gamble that left him shattered, his mind forever scarred. Weeks later, a dozen more ships report the same. Their courses slip, their engines burn hot, and still they emerge far from their destinations, some lost entirely in the void. When the survivors speak, they all use the same word: silence. Astropathic choirs, once constant with murmurs and cries of distant voices, find their sanctums eerily still. Messages vanish midway, consumed by blankness that no prayer can pierce. At first, the Adeptus Astra Telepathica insists it is sabotage, interference, some hidden enemy cloaking their transmissions. But the truth cannot be hidden long. The silence is not sabotage. It is absence. Whole regions of the galaxy are being erased from the warp, cut off as though walled behind invisible stone, and where the warp cannot reach, the Imperium cannot hold. The effect on Imperial command is catastrophic. Orders vanish into the void, arriving too late or not at all. Fleets are deployed blind, marching into battles already lost or worlds already erased. When the Segmentum Solar itself receives reports of silence creeping near its borders, the High Lords argue endlessly. Some demand a crusade to reassert control. Others insist the silence is illusion, a trick of heretics or Xenos meant to frighten the faithful. In truth, they are afraid to admit what it means, that even the Emperor's light cannot reach everywhere, that his fire does not burn through the silence as it does through the warp. The Navis Nobilite suffers most of all. Their navigators are bred for endurance, their third eyes able to withstand visions that would break other mortals. Yet they begin to die in droves. Some collapse mid-voyage, their minds ruptured by the emptiness they tried to read. Others emerge from the warp screaming, clawing at their own eyes, shrieking of black corridors and endless tombs stretching beyond sight. A few survive, but even they are marked. Their once proud houses reduced to whispers of madness and decline. To the navigators, the silence is not absence. It is presence. They speak of something vast pressing against the void, something cold and patient, a weight that pushes even the Astronomicon into shadow. Desperate, the Imperial Navy attempts countermeasures. Fleets sail in greater numbers, hugging stable routes, their holds heavy with priests who chant day and night, filling the decks with hymns in the hope of piercing the silence. Geller fields are pushed to limits never intended, burning out generators and dooming crews when the warp inevitably claws through. Some ships experiment with untested Mechanicus devices, strange engines meant to stabilize passage. Most of these ships never return. Those that do arrive twisted, their machine spirits corrupted, their crews little more than husks. The silence does not yield. It consumes innovation as readily as prayer. For the ordinary citizen, the silence means isolation. Pilgrimage routes vanish, supply lines collapse, hive cities go hungry not because their crops fail, but because their convoys never arrive. Refugees crowd spaceports, begging passage on any vessel willing to risk the dark, their voices echoing against sealed gates. Priests preach faith, commanders demand obedience, but beneath it all the same fear gnaws. The galaxy itself is shrinking. Where once a man could hope that reinforcements would come, that the Emperor's armies would arrive, now he knows they cannot hear his cries. Rumors multiply in the absence of truth. Some whisper that the Necrons have no need for the warp, that their fleets slip through hidden paths older than humanity itself. Others claim that the silence is not their weapon but their nature, that they drain not only worlds but reality, stripping it back to a stillness that reflects their own undying essence. Such rumors are crushed by censors and commissars alike, yet they spread regardless because fear spreads faster than decree. The Imperium is vast, but its arteries are fragile, and in the silence between stars those arteries wither, fleets drift lost, orders vanish, faith flickers. For the first time in 10 millennia, mankind feels what it is to be alone again. At first, the silence is an absence of sound, of signal, of connection. But as the years grind on, those who dwell near Necron-held regions begin to realize it is more than absence. It is presence, a weight pressing against thought and spirit. The Imperium has endured terror before, but terror is loud. The howling of demons, the roaring of orcs, the shrieks of Tyranids. These are horrors that affirm life by threatening it. Silence does not affirm. Silence unmakes. On the border world of Veradon, a mining colony clings to survival within range of the spreading void. Its people are hardy, their lives already defined by scarcity and labor. At first they believe themselves safe. The Necrons do not march upon them. Their cities are not carved away. But slowly the colony begins to change. Workers forget their tasks mid-shift, their hands falling still as though seized by a thought they cannot voice. Children no longer play in the hab-block corridors. Priests find their sermons falling flat, the words of the imperial creed echoing without response. The faithful bow their heads, but their eyes are vacant. Commissars blame sedition and executions follow. But no rebellion rises. No banners are unfurled. Instead, more citizens simply stop moving, stop speaking, stop eating. They sit in silence until they wither, as though life itself has been drained from them. The bodies are buried in mass graves, but soon even the gravediggers cease their labor, staring into the void with glassy eyes. When an Imperial relief ship arrives decades later, Veradon is deserted. Hablocks stand untouched, food supplies still sealed. No corpses remain, only silence. Other worlds are not so clean in their erasure. On Othris, a hive world reduced to shadow by the Necron reclamation of nearby systems, the silence manifests in dreams. Citizens speak of endless corridors, halls of black stone that stretch beyond imagination. They wake with dust on their tongues, the taste of metal lingering, their eyes haunted by visions of green light. Whole districts begin to suffer mass hallucinations, their workers refusing to leave their habs, their soldiers firing on shadows. The local Arbites enforce curfews, but the dreams spread regardless, a contagion of the soul. Within a generation, Othris burns itself down, its towers collapsing as its citizens slaughter one another in silence. Their voices raised not in war cries but in whispers of a language no one can translate. Astropaths and psychers are struck hardest. Those who once heard the warp's endless chorus find themselves stranded in a void. Some beg to be executed, unable to endure the stillness that gnaws at their sanity. Others survive, but they are altered, their eyes reflecting green light even in darkness. They speak in monotone, repeating phrases that seem meaningless, but which scribes later discover resemble fragments of Necron glyphs. The black ships fill faster than ever, but for every psyker bound for Terra, 2 more fall to silence before they can be secured. For the ecclesiarchy, the silence is heresy given form. Priests declare it a test of faith, a darkness meant to strengthen the Emperor's chosen. They preach louder, their sermons swelling with fire and fervor. Yet even they falter. In cathedrals near the border, prayers echo without resonance, the great halls feeling hollow despite the chanting of thousands. Some confess in whispers that they no longer feel the Emperor's light as they once did. that the silence drowns even him. Such confessions are buried with fire and blade, but the doubt festers. A rare few resist. On the agri-world of Thassel, farmers sing hymns as they work, their voices carrying across the fields, refusing the silence that creeps at the edges of their lives. They hold festivals, light pyres, and pray together beneath the stars. The Necrons never march upon Thassel, though their worlds lie close. To the survivors, it is proof that faith can hold back the silence. To scholars, it is chance. To cynics, it is simply that the Necrons have not yet chosen to reclaim that soil. But the story spreads nonetheless, a spark of hope in a galaxy where sparks are all that remain. Still, such sparks are rare. For most, the silence is not resisted. It is endured until endurance itself gives way. Across 1,000 border worlds, voices fade, prayers weaken, and humanity finds itself standing at the edge of something older than memory, something patient enough to wait until every whisper dies away.